In a land where the strong rule, the name Hyokyon Mugong resonates with fear and respect. The leader of the Dark Heaven sect, he is known for his unmatched power and merciless ambition. As Mugong contemplates his life, he questions the judgment of others. Have I truly been such a thorn in their side? He wonders, reflecting on his actions and the reputation he has garnered. 3 years ago, Mugong decimated the heads of the Martial Alliance and the 5 clans. His brutal efficiency ensured his supremacy and cemented his position as a feared leader. Mugong's rise to power was marked by relentless destruction. He set fire to the temples of his enemies, leaving behind a trail of ashes and proving his dominance. Despite his ruthless actions, Mugong defends his choices. I only fought because they drew their swords first, he claims. His life has been one of constant defense against those who sought to destroy him. Mugong's battles were fierce, and his reputation grew with each victory. Even when outnumbered, he stood his ground, ensuring that his name would be remembered for generations. Reflecting on his past, Mugong finds irony in his situation. Don't you think that's hilarious? He muses. His enemies, who labeled him a villain, were the ones who instigated the conflicts. As he grows older, Mugong begins to see the futility of his endless battles. He feels a mix of regret and anger, understanding the hypocrisy of those who branded him evil. On his deathbed, Mugong is haunted by memories of his disciples and family. Where is Cheon Woo Myung? He wonders, longing to see his most trusted pupil one last time. Mugong yearns for the presence of Cheon Woo Myung, who is out searching for the herb of immortality. He hopes his disciple can return in time to save him. At 80 years old, Mugong reflects on his life filled with struggle and conquest. As the evil sect's heavenly master, he is one of the 3 great powers of Mirim, but his strength is waning. Mugong admits his regrets. If I had known it would end like this, I might have chosen a different path, he thinks. The dream of a peaceful life seems distant and unattainable. Mugong feels the presence of the Grim Reaper looming over him. He curses his fate and wishes for a quick end as the weight of his past actions bears down on him. As Mugong's breath becomes labored, he longs for a final meeting with Cheon Woo Myung. It would be nice to see him one last time before I die, he murmurs. Cheon Woo Myung is on a desperate quest to find the herb of immortality. Mugong's last hope rests on his disciples' shoulders as time runs out for the dying master. Back in the sect, Mugong's followers display indifference and even hope for his death. They see his passing as an opportunity for change and power within the sect. In a twist of fate, Cheon Woo Myung returns with the herb of immortality. Master, I found it, he exclaims, his voice filled with urgency and hope. Mugong's followers, however, are not eager to save him. They question the need to prolong his life, believing that his time has come. Despite their reluctance, Cheon Woo Myung insists on administering the herb. Hurry up, he urges, fighting against the indifference and opposition of the others. As the Grim Reaper reaches out to claim Mugong's soul, a miraculous glow surrounds him. The power of the herb of immortality begins to take effect, pulling his soul back into his body. Against all odds, Mugong's life is spared. He opens his eyes, feeling the surge of energy from the herb. It's over, and it's irreversible, he realizes, understanding the significance of this second chance. The Grim Reaper retreats, defeated by the powerful herb. Mugong stands, his strength restored and his mind clearer than ever.
In the vast expanse of darkness, Mugong's consciousness floats, caught between the realms of life and death. He is in a state of limbo, where his soul wavers in the void, struggling to find its way back to the physical world. Mugong can feel the pull of the Grim Reaper weakening, a sensation that brings both relief and confusion. I can sense my soul returning, he realizes, understanding that the grip of death is loosening around him, giving him a chance to come back to life. Voices begin to penetrate the void, reaching his ears and pulling him back to reality. Oh, he's starting to wake up, someone exclaims with a mix of surprise and anticipation. Mugong feels a spark of life reigniting within him, signaling his return to consciousness. Confusion sets in as Mugong regains consciousness, his surroundings coming into focus. Wait, Wudang? He thinks, recognizing the familiar setting, but unable to comprehend how he ended up there. He is back, but the presence of others makes him uneasy. Mugong opens his eyes to see a group of ascetics surrounding him, their expressions a mix of concern and curiosity. "Are you awake now?" one of them asks, their tone gentle yet probing. Mugang feels a sense of vulnerability as he lies before them, unsure of their intentions. Mugang's mind races, trying to piece together the fragments of his memory and understand his current situation. Ascetics, what's going on here, he wonders, the unfamiliar faces and strange setting adding to his bewilderment and anxiety. One of the ascetics explains, "The heavens are watching over you," attempting to reassure Mugang of their benevolent intentions. However, Mugang is puzzled, trying to make sense of their cryptic words and their unexpected presence in his life. Another ascetic adds, "After the saintly ritual, you didn't thank us." Mugang's confusion deepens as he struggles to recall any such ritual. Did he survive the holy deity ascension? One of them wonders aloud, hinting at a miraculous event that saved his life. Pain shoots through Mugang's body, a sharp reminder of his physical condition. "Ugh, my body won't move," he realizes, the stiffness in his muscles and the weakness in his limbs making it impossible for him to sit up or defend himself. Mugang struggles to understand his situation, his mind clouded with confusion and fear. Why doesn't it hurt so much, he questions, the lack of pain contrasting sharply with the immobility of his body. The ascetics watch him closely, their expressions unreadable. One of the ascetics reassures him, "It's okay, don't move too much," their voice calm and soothing. But Mugang is filled with frustration and a desperate need for answers. He feels trapped in a body that no longer obeys his commands. Anger bubbles up as Mugang remembers the bloodshed and the loss he has endured. "Damn it, don't you get it? My whole clan was annihilated," he shouts, his voice filled with grief and rage. The ascetics remain calm, their expressions showing a mix of pity and detachment. One of the ascetics, with a cold demeanor, responds, "How cold? How can such a saint be so cold?" Their words sting, but Mugang's anger only intensifies. He feels misunderstood and isolated, surrounded by those who cannot grasp the depth of his suffering. "I did what? When?" Mugang asks, his fists clenching in anger and confusion. Memories of his past flood back, mingling with his current predicament. He feels lost in a sea of conflicting emotions and half-remembered events. Mugang sees flashes of his childhood, painful memories that resurface with startling clarity. The child abandoned by his parents, he recalls, the emotional wounds of his past reopening. The memories stir a mix of sadness and anger within him. A figure from his past appears, a kind face in a time of turmoil. It's not time to relive this stuff, Mugang thinks, trying to push the memories away. He knows he must focus on the present if he is to survive and regain his strength. The boy was heartless, Mugang remembers, reflecting on his own harsh upbringing and the resilience it forced upon him. He understands now that his toughness was a necessary shield against a cruel world. Wait, hold on, what's happening? Mugang feels overwhelmed by the memories and the present reality clashing together. His mind struggles to keep up with the rapid succession of images and emotions. His pulse is weakening, and ascetic notes with concern. "All right, hurry up, everyone," another commands, urgency in their voice. They begin a ritual, hoping to stabilize Mugang and prevent his condition from worsening. Mugang's body starts to glow with a bright light, an intense and unfamiliar sensation. "What? This is deity chi," he realizes, feeling a powerful surge of energy flowing into him, healing his wounds and invigorating his spirit. "Damn it, what are you doing? Infusing deity chi into my body." Mugang protests, his voice filled with fear and anger. But the ascetics continue their ritual, determined to save him despite his objections. Mugang screams in pain, "Ah!" as the deity chi flows through him, both healing and overwhelming him. The process is excruciating, but he knows it is necessary for his survival. Suddenly, the light subsides, leaving Mugang exhausted but alive. "Phew, it's over. It worked," one of the ascetics exclaims with relief. Mugang lies on the ground, his body heavy with the after-effects of the ritual. The deity chi stopped the spread of the venom, an ascetic explains. "Now all we need to do is repair all of his bones." Mugang listens, too tired to protest or even process their words fully. An ascetic approaches Mugang, their expression solemn. "I will be eternally grateful for what you have done for us," they say. Mugang's anger resurfaces, his voice sharp. "Grateful?" he snaps, struggling to contain his frustration. "You goddamned assholes!" Mugang shouts, his emotions spilling over. "You saved me to be indebted to you?" The ascetics remain calm, their expressions unchanging, as if they expected his outburst. An elder ascetic speaks, their voice steady and authoritative. Don't worry, we are all connected by fate. How could we ignore the child that was fated to save our lives? Wudang listens, skeptical but too weak to argue. Sect master, another ascetic interjects. Now that this child has saved us, shall we accept him as a new disciple? Wudang is taken aback by the suggestion, unsure of what to think. The sect master nods in agreement. Yes, we have been thinking about it for a while. If you accept him, he will train under us. Wudang feels a mix of surprise and uncertainty as the proposal sinks in. I shall permit this child to be Wu Myung's disciple, the sect master declares, making the decision final. Wudang feels a sense of acceptance, but also the weight of new expectations and responsibilities. Have you thought of a name for him? An ascetic asks, turning to Wudang. He is silent, the question taking him by surprise. A first-class name would be good, the sect master suggests. I shall choose Mun. Jinmu, the sect master decides, sealing Wudang's new identity. The ascetics nod in agreement. That's a nice name, one of them says. Wudang thinks to himself, that name sucks, feeling a mix of acceptance and resistance. The sect master smiles warmly. From now on, Jinmu will be your name. You are our new disciple. Wudang, now Jinmu, feels a sense of acceptance, but also the burden of living up to his new identity. All right, everyone, for Jinmu's fast recovery, the sect master announces. The ascetics prepare for another ritual, and Jinmu braces himself for what lies ahead, knowing that his journey has only just begun. Jinmu feels the hands of the ascetics on him, their energy channeling into his body. What are they doing now? He wonders, as the ritual begins. The ascetics' focus and determination are palpable. Jinmu feels a rush of power coursing through him, a sensation both exhilarating and terrifying. Stop it, he cries, but the ascetics continue their work. I'm begging you, please stop, he pleads, tears streaming down his face as the intensity of the ritual overwhelms him. Enough, an elder ascetic commands, bringing the ritual to a sudden halt. Jinmu is left panting, tears in his eyes, his body trembling from the experience. We have saved you, the elder says with finality. Now you must live up to your new name. Jinmu lies there, exhausted but alive, realizing that his journey has only just begun. The name Jinmu will carry the weight of his past and the hope of his future. He knows he must rise to the challenge and prove himself worthy of the second chance he has been given. Now, that's the look of a true hero. Jinmu stands tall in a black and red robe, his golden eyes gleaming with determination. He looks every bit the classic Rizzler. As he takes a deep breath, he says to himself, I've become Jinmu, a first-class disciple of Wudang, a once mighty but now dying group. What has that Orochimaru-looking Reaper done to me? I just closed my eyes, and when I opened them, I was in this kid's dying body with his memories flooding my mind. Adding to his turmoil, the 6 Yang divine arts deity energy, forcibly infused into his dantian, is eradicating all other forms of energy within him. This realization fills him with rage. I can't even use my old martial arts that I was so proud of, the Shadow Dragon core energy, he thinks furiously. His master calls out to him, and Jinmu responds instinctively, a reaction he despises. He curses his current situation, resenting how his body obeys without question. Jinmu's mind drifts to his past life. I remember it like it was yesterday, he muses. I turned the Pond of Peace upside down and burned 3 out of the 5 palaces, cutting through everything in Wudang. He was the ascetic bastard who protected the Violet Cloud Palace to the end, fighting against me, Hyok Ryon Mugang. He was spared because he refused to surrender, but that was a mistake. I should have burned all their Tao temples to the ground. Snapping back to the present, his master invites him to lunch. Reluctantly, Jinmu agrees, but frustration simmers beneath the surface. As he cuts vegetables and makes soup with a forced smile, his patience finally snaps. He throws the bowl across the room, shouting, "When can I leave this goddamn place?" We now start Chapter 3. The tranquil scenery of a serene temple is disturbed by the sound of birds chirping, creating a peaceful yet lively atmosphere. In this serene setting, Jinmu's master sips his tea while teaching Jinmu the basics of martial arts. Jinmu unsheathes his sword and concentrates to apply his chi to the sword while the master observes him. With a sudden burst of energy coming out of the sword, Jinmu successfully passes his chi through the sword, making a charged sword. The master is astonished by the rapid development of Jinmu, as it has only been 3 months since the training began. The master then says it usually takes years of practice, and on top of that, you learned by my verbal teachings alone. Jinmu replies that it's been 3 months and he was fully healed. Since the master lost his skills, he had to teach Jinmu the 6 Yang divine arts via verbal teaching. As one of Murim's former lords, having to learn all of this from scratch is annoying, but this damn body. All of its memories are controlling my instincts, so I can't go against the master's words. Master Myungjin thinks, is it because of the chi we sent into your body? Or when I'm teaching you one thing, are you able to learn 10, no, 100 things because you are a genius? The master then stops himself and says that's impossible. Jinmu gives a smirking expression towards the master after hearing it. He then thinks to himself, of course you wouldn't understand. Even though I'm in this body, I used to be one of the strongest beings in the world. I understand this power infinitely more than you do. But actually, learning their techniques has been quite fun. Growing my internal energy every day and deepening my understanding of the basic strokes, compared to the dangerous techniques I once used, it's much more systematic and safe. I will admit that there's a reason why this place is famous. Jinmu dives deeper into his training, pushing himself to the limits. I remember those times when I trained in martial arts as a vagabond. I trained so hard that I would lose track of time. Without realizing it, a year has passed, Jinmu reflects. With a swift motion, Jinmu demonstrates the sword chi technique, his blade cutting through the air with precision. I'm now able to use sword chi, he states proudly. Finally, it looks like I am a first-class disciple, Jinmu says, his voice filled with satisfaction. Wudang Sect's martial arts have truly improved my skills. Jinmu contemplates his next steps. Long can the time be, having learned martial arts with 2 internal energies, he muses. But there's one problem. My internal energy is taking too long to recover. Jinmu's frustration is evident. Even though I give it my all, the energy is slow to recover, he says, his voice filled with determination, but it's still too slow. Jinmu clenches his fist, his resolve strengthening. I need to advance several levels, he decides, but if there was a way to improve, I would do anything. Half a month ago, Jinmu's journey took a significant turn. That's impressive, someone comments, watching his progress. If someone has enough merit, they get to train under the sect master himself. That's how it's supposed to be, Jinmu reflects. That's why, unlike the master disciples, becoming a first-class disciple is crucial. He remembers the teachings and the expectations placed upon him. Most people who want to learn under a martial arts sect master, Jinmu recalls, wish to become one as well. If I could, I would use the unique martial arts techniques and be able to train them directly. Jinmu's determination is unwavering. What did you just say? Someone exclaims, surprised by his ambition. 2 internal energy types? They ask in disbelief. 2 at the same time? Jinmu repeats, understanding the challenge before him. He envisions the integration of the internal energies within his body, a difficult but not impossible task. I thought that the unique body technique was only possible when born, Jinmu muses. But if I could master it, I wouldn't have to worry about the deity Chi's interference. Jinmu ponders being able to have 2 types of internal energy in one body. Isn't that the most secret technique that Wudang sect has? I thought that technique was long lost. I never imagined that it's still around since I've never seen any martial arts sect use it. If someone could teach me, I wouldn't have to worry about the divine chi interference. I could use the Shadow Dragon Core energy. Now that I know what I need to do, I won't stop until I achieve my goal. Jinmu declares, his eyes filled with determination and resolve. Jinmu's goal becomes clear. Are you sure about that? Jinmu asks. The second-class disciple says, everyone knows that mastering this technique is challenging. Jinmu's mind races with possibilities. Something that anyone else would find impossible, he states, his conviction growing stronger. He realizes that his journey will be filled with obstacles, but he is ready to face them. Every single one of the first-class disciples has a special talent, Jinmu acknowledges. But you don't know how remarkable I am, he adds with a confident smile, his eyes shining with determination. Now that I know what I need to do, I won't stop until I achieve my goal, Jinmu declares, his voice filled with determination and resolve. He knows that his journey will be arduous, but he is ready to prove his worth. Every single one of the first-class disciples has a special talent, Jinmu acknowledges. But you don't know how remarkable I am, he adds with a confident smile, his eyes shining with determination. The skepticism continues as the senior says, "You're just a nobody under a first-generation martial artist, not one of the master's disciples." The dismissal of Jinmu's abilities is clear in their tone. "It's not even in your reach, is it?" the character adds, further underestimating Jinmu's potential. Jinmu's expression shows a mix of frustration and determination. Contemplating his next move, Jinmu's focus sharpens. Competition. What about them, he thinks, realizing that proving himself will require surpassing his peers. With a fierce grin, Jinmu continues, "I'll beat everyone else to a pulp because I'm the one with the dual martial energies." His eyes shine with a fiery resolve, ready to prove his worth. He exclaims, "All right, I've found a way to fix my energy deficiency." His excitement is palpable as he identifies a solution to his lingering problem. Just one more problem left before I can get out of this rut, Jinmu thinks to himself. And that problem is... The scene shifts to a more peaceful setting. The peaceful setting reveals a table laden with food. Jinmu says, "First, food." The sight of the meal underscores the basic yet crucial need for sustenance in his journey. Sitting across from his master, Jinmu reassures him, "Don't worry, sir. You need food to heal." His dedication to his master's recovery is clear. Jinmu serves a plate of food to his master, saying, "Please enjoy it." His master, with a look of appreciation, responds, "All right, I will." As the master takes a bite, Jinmu thinks to himself, "Damn Wudang sect bastards. I finally realize how ridiculous it was for them to spread such nonsense about internal energy deficiency." Jinmu continues to reflect, remembering times when he begged his master, "Please, just one bite," and pleaded for his attention, "Please." His dedication and persistence are clear from these memories. "Thanks to the master's consistent care, I improved my absorption for me to regain my normal levels," Jinmu acknowledges. He is grateful for the support and training he received, which has enabled his progress. Jinmu reassures his master, "Are you sure you don't want more?" To which the master replies, "I'm all right. Don't worry about me. Go on." The master's focus remains on Jinmu's training and well-being. Jinmu contemplates the next step, thinking, next reality is the best food to neutralize someone. He is determined to continue his journey and ensure his master's health and strength. With a determined look, Jinmu reflects, "I can't tell my master about my plan." He understands the necessity of keeping his strategy to himself for now. Jinmu trains rigorously, thinking, if I ask him anything about it, I'm sure he will end up telling him everything. His commitment to mastering his skills is unwavering, even in secrecy. As he practices the sword, he swings, and suddenly someone appears, and he almost slashes them. The kid introduces himself as Chungwoo, a second-class disciple from Culmination Hall. He tells Jinmu that he brought food supplies.
Starting Chapter 4, Jinmu, having completed his rigorous training, stands in a serene courtyard. He is approached by Chungwoo, a fellow disciple from the Culmination Hall. Chungwoo introduces himself, causing Jinmu to recognize him as that guy. Chungwoo explains that he has brought food supplies, which Jinmu realizes must mean that Chungwoo has been assisting him with his training. Jinmu questions why Chungwoo had gained so much weight despite being a martial artist, suspecting that Chungwoo might be careless about his body. Chungwoo's arrival changes nothing for Jinmu, who remains resolute in his dedication to training. He quickly engages in a sparring session, demonstrating his commitment to becoming stronger. However, Chungwoo's presence disrupts Jinmu's focus, and he finds himself frustrated by the constant interruptions. Jinmu's annoyance is evident as he exclaims, "This pig! I'm going crazy!" Jinmu questions Chungwoo's arrival, reminding him that as a disciple of the Culmination Hall, he shouldn't be loitering around, and tells him to go and continue the training. Chungwoo pleads to stay and train, stating that he has nowhere else to go. Jinmu, observing this interaction, recalls how people usually hang out with their peers on their days off, a luxury he hasn't indulged in. Jinmu, contemplating Chungwoo's unusual behavior, realizes that people might avoid Chungwoo due to his overbearing nature. Curious, Jinmu inquires about Chengwu's interactions with others, to which Chengwu admits that people often avoid him. Jinmu's expression softens as he acknowledges Chengwu's lack of self-awareness and suggests that Chengwu's cheerful demeanor might be off-putting to some. Chengwu, unaware of his own shortcomings, continues to express his dedication to training. Jinmu, slightly amused and sympathetic, advises Chengwu to be more aware of how others perceive him. He is practically being bullied by his seniors and peers. He reminds Jinmu of his loyal assistant from his past life, who was also bullied for his innocent behavior. Chengwu, with his ever-optimistic attitude, laughs and thanks Jinmu for the advice. Jinmu then tells Chengwu to go train and insists that there is no time to waste. Chengwu, eager to prove himself, demonstrates a martial arts move, the 7-star fist. Jinmu watches, impressed by Chengwu's effort, realizing that he must have been practicing hard. This revelation sparks Jinwu's curiosity, and he decides to take a closer look at how the Wudang sect's second-class disciples train, leading him to follow Chengwu and observe his training methods. Jinmu thinks, Chengmyung is fat because he eats a lot and is lazy. For example, if your form is bad, you won't be able to do well no matter how much you train. Jinmu is frustrated with Chengmyung's lack of discipline, but is determined to help him improve. Jinmu, while watching Chengmyung struggle, says to himself, watching him is frustrating me to no end. He feels conflicted because it's not really his business, but he can't help but get involved. Jinmu exclaims that the style should change according to the body type. For example, if your arms are short, you'll have to use your feet more than in the original method, or you will have to use a trick. Whoever taught him was stupid. Jinmu, unable to hold back any longer, grabs Chengmyung and sternly asks, why are you doing this? Chengmyung is taken aback by Jinmu's sudden outburst. Jinmu, pointing at Chengmyung's chest, exclaims, you're thick! You're fat! If you can't get it right, your training won't mean anything. Chengmyung looks confused and overwhelmed. Chengmyung, with a blank expression, clearly doesn't understand what Jinmu is trying to convey. Jinmu, frustrated, thinks, man, I'm going crazy. He lightly smacks Chengmyung on the head and mutters, what an idiot. Chengmyung cries out in pain, ouch, that hurts. Jinmu wanted to show him how to do it properly and asks him to stand properly. Chengmyung agrees with a smiley face. Jinmu tells him, come on, stand here and do it. Try the 7-star fist again. Chengmyung, despite the pain, agrees to try again with determination. Chengmyung gets into position, ready to give it another shot. Jinmu observes, ensuring Chengmyung follows the correct form. Chengmyung gathers his energy and focuses on executing the 7-star fist properly this time. He says, make your hits quick and concise. Since you don't have the brain, learn by getting hit. Now, lean in more. Jinmu gets frustrated and kicks him with his leg. He even tells that you can poke your opponent's eyes. Chengmyung, with pain, says, but sir, isn't that too cowardly? Jinmu responds saying, shut up! There's no cowardly way to fight. If you win, it's over. Again, Jinmu bombards Chengmyung with a barrage of punches and kicks and finally says, that's enough for today. Jinmu continues, but if you do a movement, you have to do it like your life depends on it, emphasizing the importance of dedication and precision in their training. Chengmyung falls down out of exhaustion and pain, but Jinmu is impressed by his tenacity and thinks that he got some tenacity since he kept moving until I told him to stop. Jinmu says, not to come here again from tomorrow. If you come, I will kill you here. Chengmyung is utterly shocked by his words and expression and runs away. Jinmu watches Chengmyung walk away, his expression unchanging. He thinks to himself, he's so annoying. Please, please don't come back, expressing his desire to be rid of Chengmyung's presence. As the sun sets, Jinmu stands on the bridge, lost in his thoughts. Suddenly, a voice calls out to him, Jinmu. It is his master, approaching him from behind. The master continues, what were you doing here? Jinmu turns to face him, surprised by his sudden appearance. Jinmu, trying to downplay the situation, responds, I've never seen him before. Either he is a little stupid. He attempts to dismiss the topic, but his master seems curious. His master, with a discerning look, replies, but you led him well. That's how it should be. Jinmu is taken aback by the compliment, questioning, why do you look so happy? With a gentle smile, the master says, I'll hurry up and prepare the meal. Jinmu, feeling a mix of emotions, simply replies, All right. The next day, we see Jinmu training again, and someone calls him, "You punk!" He turns around and sees two people, Chung Myung and a new person emerging. The other person is a first-class disciple of the Culmination Hall, Jinhyo, who is much more senior than Jinmu and also one of the ascetics that made it into Wudang Sect's Great Seven. Jinmu, a great disciple of Culmination Hall, stands resolute, observing his surroundings. Beside him, Jinhyo, another esteemed disciple of the Wudang sect, and Chungwoo appear, setting the stage for a tense encounter. Jinhyo, known for his unwavering dedication, confronts Jinmu, questioning his recent actions. Jinmu's calm demeanor contrasts sharply with Jinhyo's stern expression, creating an atmosphere thick with tension. Jinhyo, with a stern expression, accuses Jinmu of teaching Chungwoo improper techniques that nearly rendered his opponent unable to produce energy. Jinmu, unfazed, responds calmly, denying any wrongdoing. Chungwoo, caught in the middle, looks on with a mixture of confusion and concern. Jinhyo's accusation rings out, "Did you teach him the seven-star fist?" pointing at Chungwoo's fatigued form. Jinmu, maintaining his composure, responds, "What if I did?" It's a legitimate technique. Jinhyo's anger flares as he points at Jinmu, demanding an explanation for the seven-star fist technique. Jinmu remains composed, deflecting the accusations with ease. Chungwoo, sensing the rising tension, tries to mediate, but to no avail. Jinhyo, frustrated, declares that Jinmu's teachings are reckless and could endanger others. "Do you understand the consequences of such a reckless act?" Jinhyo's voice grows louder, drawing the attention of other disciples. Jinmu, maintaining his calm demeanor, subtly mocks Jinhyo's concern, hinting at his own superior understanding of martial arts. "Perhaps you don't fully grasp the intricacies of the technique," Jinmu suggests, a slight smirk playing on his lips. Jinhyo, feeling provoked, challenges Jinmu to prove his worth. "Then prove it. Show me the mastery you claim to possess," Jinhyo demands, his fists clenched in anger. The air is thick with anticipation as the two disciples prepare to clash. Jinmu decides not to use the actual sword as it may kill the senior. He unsheathes his practice sword, its wooden blade glinting in the sunlight. The duel begins, with Jinhyo launching a series of swift attacks. Jinmu effortlessly evades, demonstrating his agility and skill. The crowd watches in awe as the two disciples exchange blows, their movements a blur of speed and precision. Jinhyo's attacks are fierce, each strike aimed to land a decisive blow, but Jinmu moves like a shadow, effortlessly dodging. Jinhyo's frustration grows as he struggles to land a hit on Jinmu. Determined to teach Jinmu a lesson, Jinhyo intensifies his attacks, but Jinmu counters each move with ease. Jinmu's confidence shines through as he taunts Jinhyo, further fueling his anger. "Is that all you've got?" Jinmu asks, his voice dripping with mockery. Jinhyo's face contorts with rage, his attacks becoming more erratic. Jinmu, sensing an opportunity, unleashes a powerful strike, sending Jinhyo staggering backward. The crowd gasps, witnessing Jinmu's undeniable prowess. Jinhyo, refusing to back down, readies himself for another round, his resolve unbroken. "I'm not done yet," Jinhyo yells, charging at Jinmu with renewed vigor. The sound of their clashing swords echoes through the courtyard. As the duel continues, Jinmu's mastery becomes evident. Each of his movements is precise, each strike calculated. Jinhyo, despite his best efforts, finds himself outmatched. Jinmu's confidence grows with each passing moment, his superiority undeniable. "You're predictable," Jinmu comments, effortlessly parrying Jinhyo's strikes. The audience murmurs in agreement, their admiration for Jinmu growing. Jinhyo, realizing the futility of his efforts, reluctantly concedes defeat. Jinmu, victorious, stands tall, his expression triumphant. Jinhyo acknowledges Jinmu's skill and dominance. As he was about to praise our hero, we can see that Jinmu still doesn't want to stop his anger and starts punching him until Jinhyo's face is swollen. Jinmu thinks that he finally got a chance to release his stress. "This is for all the times you looked down on me," Jinmu mutters between punches, his fists flying in a blur of motion. The scene transitions to a different setting, where the news of Jinmu's victory has reached the Violet Cloud Temple. The sect master, Myungchun, listens intently to the report. "Someone beat Jinhyo?" he repeats, incredulous. The sect master's expression hardens as he contemplates the implications of this unexpected development. "Tell it to me again," Myungchun demands, his eyes narrowing. The messenger nervously repeats the tale, describing Jinmu's overwhelming victory. In the final frames, Jinmu stands alone, reflecting on the day's events. His determination is unwavering as he gazes into the distance, mentally preparing for the challenges that lie ahead. I will definitely learn it, Jinmu vows, his resolve stronger than ever. The chapter concludes with Jinmu's laughter echoing in the courtyard, a testament to his unyielding spirit and relentless pursuit of mastery. The sun sets behind him, casting a long shadow that symbolizes the immense journey still ahead. The chapter begins with a dramatic scene set in the Violet Cloud Temple. The sect's elders gather, their expressions grave and contemplative. The Wudang sect master, Myungchun, sits at the head of the table, listening intently as his disciples recount the recent events. The atmosphere is tense as the elders discuss the implications of Jinmu's actions. As the scene unfolds, it becomes clear that the elders are deeply concerned about Jinmu's growing power. Myungchun, with a furrowed brow, demands more details about Jinmu's recent victory over Jinheo. The disciple who brought the news repeats himself, emphasizing Jinmu's dominance in the duel. Myungchun's face hardens as he contemplates the implications. There are several key figures, including Elder Huang and Elder Park, who are known for their strategic acumen and deep knowledge of martial arts. The atmosphere in the hall is tense, charged with anticipation and concern. The elders are seated in a semicircle facing the sect master, ready to discuss the recent events that have shaken the sect. The hall is dimly lit, with the flickering light of lanterns casting long shadows, adding to the gravity of the moment. They are shocked to learn that a second-year disciple was able to modify martial arts based on body type, a feat only masters and those with extensive in-depth knowledge can accomplish. They are all impressed by our hero's actions. As the elders exchange concerned glances, the scene shifts to a flashback showing a younger Myungchun. His face is stern and determined as he leads a group of disciples in a fierce battle against Hyokryone Mugang. The flashback highlights the sect's storied past and the challenges it has overcome, reinforcing the importance of maintaining its honor and reputation. Returning to the present, Myungchun concludes, "We will investigate this matter thoroughly. Let us gather all the relevant information and convene again tomorrow to decide our course of action." The elders nod in agreement, their resolve strengthened by the sect master's guidance. The meeting adjourns, and the image captures the elders as they rise and begin to leave the hall. The scene shifts to an animated scene outside the Violet Cloud Temple. We see Chungwoo, who is always full of energy and enthusiasm, excitedly running towards Jinmu with a broad smile on his face. His arms are outstretched as if he's about to embrace Jinmu, reflecting his carefree nature. Meanwhile, Jinmu stands in the courtyard, calmly observing Chungwoo's exuberant approach. His expression is a mix of amusement and mild annoyance, indicative of the complex relationship between the two disciples. Jinmu, known for his stoic demeanor, remains composed as Chungwoo skids to a stop in front of him, panting slightly from his rush. Chungwoo announces that the master told him to practice martial arts under Jinmu. Our hero is shocked and frustrated to hear this predicament. He claims that he didn't beat Jinheo hard enough. Suddenly, the master enters the scene and says he allowed it as Jinheo visited last night and convinced the master to have Chungwoo train under Jinmu. Hearing this from the master confuses our hero, who can't really deny the request. Jinmu begs the master that he is not ready to have any students, but the master holds Jinmu's hands and pleads. Jinmu doesn't know what to do now. With reluctance, he agrees to the master's request. After the conversation, the sect master asks Jinmu to cook the meal as he's hungry. The scene transitions to an open courtyard where Jinmu stands, resolute and contemplative, reflecting on Master Ungle's words. The crisp morning air fills the space, bringing with it a sense of renewal and purpose. Jinmu's thoughts are interrupted by the sudden appearance of Chungwoo, who, as usual, seems bursting with energy. The cheerful disciple dashes towards Jinmu, his feet barely touching the ground in his excitement. "Jinmu! Jinmu!" Chungwoo calls out, his voice echoing through the courtyard. Jinmu turns to see Chungwoo approaching at full speed. Despite the disruption, Jinmu can't help but feel slight amusement at his friend's boundless enthusiasm. Jinmu threatens Chungwoo and gives him 3 rules to follow if he wants to be accepted. First, Jinmu is not his master. Second, Chungwoo must do whatever Jinmu tells him. Third, Chungwoo must never utter words like "wow," Yay or hooray, again like last time. Chungwoo, with a painful look on his face, screams, I will follow your orders. Jinmu asks Chungwoo to go to the kitchen to prepare food. He instructs Chungwoo to get roosters and prepare food, giving step-by-step instructions. Jinmu thinks Chungwoo is really obedient and feels very satisfied to boss someone around after a while. Chungwoo asks Jinmu how he defeated the senior while praising our hero with a glowing face. Jinmu finds it amusing and boasts about himself. The food is prepared and both of them take the chicken to their Grand Master. Chungwoo, holding a bowl of ingredients, looks at Jinmu with wide-eyed wonder and asks, I can really eat this? His face lights up with excitement at the prospect of enjoying the fruits of their labor. Chungwoo asks if it's okay to eat meat, since eating meat is strictly forbidden based on the Wudang sect's commandments. Jinmu thinks they are nonsense, as he eats meat sometimes, and it's been a while since the master has had it too. Jinmu serves the food to his master and pleads with him to eat more chicken, saying he is getting stronger every day after changing his diet. With an evil expression, he thinks to himself that once he gets better, he can leave this place and never come back. The master, with a smiley face, offers some meat to Jinmu, but he politely rejects the offer by saying he has another bowl of meat outside for him and Chungwoo, and steps out. Jinmu says he is very hungry and is infuriated to see Chungwoo finishing the entire bowl by himself. He chases after Chungwoo with an angry look and shouts, Why did you eat the soup too? As this funny scene is going around, we now see the elders entering the sect to greet the Grand Master and listen to Jinmu's side of the events yesterday. But Jinmu is clueless and wondering why they have come all the way here. This concludes Chapter 6. The continuation of the previous chapter unfolds with high tension and a sense of urgency. The scene starts with a dramatic crash as Jinmu and Chungwoo find themselves in a precarious situation. Jinmu, with a stern and determined look, swiftly turns to face the commotion. His eyes widen with surprise and concern as he notices the Wudang sect master, Myungchun, along with several elders approaching with serious expressions. The sect master, his face a mix of disappointment and anger, demands to know what Jinmu has done. Jinmu's internal thoughts reveal his anxiety. Why are they here now? What do they want? Chungwoo, standing next to Jinmu, looks equally alarmed. I did not intend for any harm. My actions were meant to protect and strengthen our sect. One of the masters says, We can smell the meat cooking from down the mountain. Are you taking advantage of your master's illness to break the rules? I cannot forgive you for this, the master screams with a furious voice. As Jinmu is scared, the masters go inside the room and find the pile of meat bones and Grandmaster Myungjin munching on them. Jinmu curses his situation and says, I can't let something like this get in the way of me becoming a master disciple. Let me beg for forgiveness. Jinmu bends on his knees and asks for forgiveness, but the sect leader shouts for him to keep quiet. One of the leaders, infuriated, demands an explanation. Grandmaster Myungjin says, I didn't commit any crime. Everyone in the room, including Jinmu and his friend, is utterly shocked. They didn't expect that question from the Grandmaster himself. Despite everyone's anger and shock, the Grandmaster remains calm and asks Jinmu, Why are you kneeling as if you committed a crime? Stand up. The Grandmaster stands and addresses the elders, asking them, How do I look right now? All the elders are shocked to see him standing, as they didn't expect him to have this much energy. When I lost my powers and was confined to my bed after fighting that evil man, do you know how I felt? Every one of our allies and disciples died and betrayed us when we were down. Did we even try to get revenge? All the elders looked down, ashamed and unable to meet the Grandmaster's eyes. No one helped the Wudang sect, and now they are forgotten, continually getting weaker. He continues, When we were powerful, everyone wanted to help, but they ignored us the second we were weakened. That is what Murim is like. Even if they call themselves chivalrous, that's the cold, hard truth. Jinmu is surprised to hear such a debate from the Grandmaster and thinks to himself, You are good, Master. This might work. Come on, hurry up. You know I'm innocent, and smirks with an evil laugh. The Grandmaster Myungjin continues, When Jinmu first suggested I eat meat, I was surprised, but he insisted, Eat this and get your energy back. Because I cannot live without him. That's why I ate it, and it gave me strength. Recently, I was able to walk around in the mountains. The elder is shocked to hear this and thinks, he was bedridden for 10 years, and now he went for a walk. He's regained that much? The Grandmaster yells with passion, Senior brother, do you truly not understand? While we were abstaining from everything, we have done nothing but get weaker. If the Wudang sect becomes nothing but ruins, what use are the 10 Commandments? One of the elders shouts, Stop! I shall handle this myself. The rest of you, please leave. I will talk to Myungjin alone. As the remaining elders object, the elder gets angry and shouts, Don't make me repeat myself. Now the elders, scared, decide to leave the sect for now. We now see Jinmu and Myungjin giving a send-off to the elders as they descend the sect. Judging by the elders' looks, we can see that they are upset and infuriated. In the next scene, Chungwoo asks Jinmu, Master Uncle, what do we do now? With a concerned face. Jinmu is clueless and doesn't know what to do. It's just eating meat. Why do they make a big deal out of it? He wonders. He then thinks, are my chances of becoming a master apprentice ruined? The next day, Jinmu is invited to the sect leaders' meeting and is standing among them. Jinmu convinces himself, it's fine, it's just eating meat. The punishment can't be that bad, right? Now the elder addresses Jinmu. You have committed 3 crimes. Jinmu is shocked and doesn't understand why it's 3 mistakes. With this, the chapter 7 comes to an end. Let's see what the 3 crimes our hero has committed according to the elders in the next chapter. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and ring the bell for more updates and content. The chapter opens in the Grand Hall of the Violet Cloud Temple, a space filled with the high-ranking elders of the Wudang sect. The atmosphere is tense, laden with anticipation and the weight of impending judgment. The sect master, Myung-chun, sits at the head of the gathering, his presence commanding respect and attention. His gaze is fixed on Jinmu, who stands before him, ready to face the charges against him. The sect master begins the proceedings with a commanding voice. Jinmu, listen. His words reverberate through the hall, heightening the gravity of the situation. Jinmu, feeling the weight of the moment, stands tall, prepared to defend his actions. Myung-chun starts listing the accusations against Jinmu. First, even if it was for your mentor, you breached one of the 10 commandments of our sect, he states, his tone sharp and unforgiving. The elders, including Elder Wang and Elder Park, murmur among themselves, their expressions a mix of concern and disapproval. He continues, Second, you are accused of modifying martial arts techniques without authorization. The sect master's voice grows harsher. Third, you have defied the sect's rules, shown disrespect to your superiors, and injured your own kind. The severity of the situation is clear to everyone present. The master asks, Do you agree with these accusations? Jinmu responds with a silent yes, wondering what kind of punishment awaits him. Should he just turn the whole place upside down if he's not satisfied with their decision? He thinks with a frustrated expression. The master then announces, I shall now punish you for your 3 crimes. For the next month, you will restore the Pond of Peace. Jinmu is happy to hear this, considering it a light punishment. The elders are shocked by the leniency, believing he should be imprisoned instead. One elder voices his frustration. Sect master, what are you saying? He deserves to be imprisoned for what he did. This punishment is too easy on him. Other elders agree. That's right. To forgive him for breaking one of the 10 commandments, sect master, please reconsider. Seeing the dissent, Jinmu looks back at everyone with a mix of shock and anger. The sect master silences the room, saying, Don't attempt to undermine my authority as the sect master. I don't want to hear any more. Jinmu may leave now. Jinmu bows to the elder and takes his leave. The other elders, unhappy with the decision, begin to shiver with anger and contempt. One elder, the Purification Palace Master, speaks up. Sect Master, may I speak? Is this decision because of the effect that meat has had on the Grand Master's health? As a medical professional, I've known for a long time that in order for him to recover, he would need to eat meat. Hearing this, the Sect Master explains, that's not the only reason I allowed him to eat meat. The revelation shocks the other elders. The scene shifts to Jinmu and Chungwoo standing by a tranquil pond, the serene setting contrasting with the earlier tension. Jinmu looks out over the water, his mind filled with thoughts of the challenges ahead. Chengwu, ever the enthusiastic one, exclaims, "Master Uncle, those elders are really strict, aren't they?" His face shows a mix of curiosity and concern. Jinmu thinks, "It's been 10 years since the war, and they haven't fixed it. What have they been doing all these years? This place is very sacred to the sect. There isn't even a guard here." Chengwu interrupts Jinmu's thoughts, asking, "Master, this is weird. At the first class disciples' morning meeting to discuss what to do for the day, I heard them saying they would send more people over, but why is no one here except us?" Jinmu responds, "I think they are jealous of us. Most of the other apprentices are from good families. Having nobody like me placed in the same classes as them hurts their pride. They are trying to ostracize me. Just wait until I become a master disciple. I'll kick their asses," he says with burning intent. Seeing Jinmu's determination scares Chengwu, who asks, "What's with your killing intent? Are you going to kill them?" The scene shifts to Seren's place, where Jinmu and Chengwu start eating several types of meat every day, enjoying themselves to the fullest. After 3 days, Chengwu worries about not making any progress in cleaning the pond. "Is this really okay?" he asks. Jinmu responds, "Of course it is. Don't you trust me? The fact that they gave us a month to fix this place means they want us to take it easy." The next morning, Jinmu relaxes by the pond, thinking, "Why is Chengwu late today? Is he sleeping?" Just then, he sees Chengwu running towards him, chased by someone. Jinmu is shocked, wondering, who is this new guy? Chengwu introduces the newcomer. "This is senior brother Chengsang." Jinmu thinks to himself, he's very handsome and tall, but he doesn't look like he wants to be friends with Chengwu. Chengwu explains, "He asked me to explain something, but I couldn't do it well, so I brought him here." Jinmu asks, "What exactly did he ask about?" Chengwu responds, "The things I've learned from you. I can do them, but I can't explain how. I can only show them with my moves." Jinmu and Chengsang glare at each other, and Jinmu thinks, "What is this guy after? Is he really after me? Why does he want to learn from me?" The scene shifts back to the discussion between the elders. The sect master declares, "The Wudang sect needs to change." Another elder adds, "I still can't believe Jinmu didn't learn techniques directly from his grandmaster. He just listened to his teachings, discovered their weaknesses, and modified them to his needs. For him to have come this far, he has a gift from the heavens." The grandmaster reflects, "What if the rules we've been putting on students have crippled their wings before they truly learn to fly?" He decides to change everything, starting with allowing meat in the diet, wondering if this change will bring good. The chapter ends with Jinmu staring at Chengsang by the pond, his mind filled with questions and a burning resolve. The new chapter opens with Jinmu standing by the tranquil pond, contemplating the recent events. He is joined by Chengwu and the newly introduced senior brother, Chengsang. Chengwu, ever the enthusiastic one, tries to break the ice by formally introducing Chengsang. Senior brother Chengsang is a legendary martial artist in the entire Cloud Sky sect, he exclaims, his eyes sparkling with admiration. He's one of the few chosen to master the sword technique. Chengsang, proud of himself, listens to the praises from the junior chubby cheeks. Jinmu's expression hardens, his competitive spirit ignited. "So this guy thinks he's hot stuff, huh?" he muses internally. "Not really sure who you are, but let me put your smug face into the ground," he thinks with determination. Chengsang, however, doesn't appear interested in pleasantries. His demeanor is distant and aloof, further irritating Jinmu. Chengwu attempts to diffuse the tension by explaining, "Senior brother Chengsang doesn't really teach. It's probably because of where he came from." But his attempt falls flat. Chengsang's stern reply, "I don't need help from anybody about where I'm from," leaves Chengwu apologizing profusely. Jinmu observes the exchange and thinks, for a guy with such raw talent, he's sure isolated from the others. This realization brings Jinmu to a sudden determination. Those damn Wudang sect relationships. If I don't like it, I'll just change it. Jinmu then commands Chengwu, "Get rid of that rock. We need to restore the pond of peace, right?" Chengwu looks at the massive boulder in disbelief, exclaiming, "Master Uncle, that's not a rock. It's a boulder. It's impossible to move." Jinmu, unperturbed, retorts, "Do it. In order to move a boulder that tall, you need to have at least 10 years of internal energy or more strength." Despite his doubts, Chengwu gives it his all but fails. Jinmu watches intently, assessing Chengwu's efforts. Chengsang, observing from a distance, thinks to himself, what now? He is curious about Jinmu's approach, recognizing that Jinmu's methods are unconventional but effective. Seeing Chengwu struggle, Jinmu decides to intervene. He steps closer and begins to teach Chengwu the proper technique to lift the boulder, guiding him step by step. Lower your posture, point your feet inward, touch the rock with your knees, and lift it. Jinmu's voice is calm but firm, his instructions clear and precise. Chengwu follows Jinmu's instructions, his movements initially shaky but gradually more confident. To everyone's amazement, he successfully lifts the boulder and throws it into the pond with a triumphant splash. The water ripples outward, a symbol of their collective effort and determination. Both of them are shocked, their stern expressions softening into ones of disbelief. There's no way. He's able to lift that boulder by changing his posture? Maybe I bet you're trying to figure out what just happened? Jinmu smirks, his eyes gleaming with satisfaction. When I touched his back, I channeled some energy, he reveals, his voice tinged with pride, but he doesn't want to reveal that trick to anyone. Jinmu and Chengwu celebrate the accomplishment, their bond strengthening through shared triumph. We did it, Chengwu exclaims, his face glowing with happiness. But their victory is short-lived as they know more challenges await. Jinmu's mind is already racing ahead, thinking about the next steps. He declares, Chengsang, just you wait. You're going to be punished a lot more. His words are filled with a mix of determination and a hint of dark humor, foreshadowing the trials to come. As Jinmu and Chengwu engage in lighthearted banter, Chengwu marvels at the deliciousness of the food, unable to resist its tempting aroma. Jinmu, always quick to capitalize on an opportunity, taunts Chengwu with the prospect of becoming stronger by eating meat. Despite Chengwu's initial hesitation, the thought of gaining strength outweighs his reservations. Jinmu slyly turns to Chengsang, offering him a piece of meat. His actions are bold, a direct challenge to the traditionalist stance of their sect. Chengsang, who has always followed the sect's commandments, finds himself at a crossroads. Jinmu's nonchalant behavior and enticing words make him question his own convictions. Chengsang, however, denies the request despite Jinmu's insistence that eating meat will make him even stronger than before. His resolve remains firm, despite the growing temptation. The scene shifts to a gathering of the sect's elders, who discuss the recent changes and their implications. The elders are divided. Some view these changes as necessary progress, while others see them as the beginning of corruption. An elder, with a solemn expression, reflects on the weight of their decisions. The introduction of meat into their diet is just the start, he fears. He imagines a future where more commandments are abolished, leading to further moral decay. The imagery of a once pure sect indulging in worldly pleasures such as alcohol and women troubles him deeply. His words echo the fears of those who resist change, clinging to the old ways in hopes of preserving their sect's purity. Jinmu, feeling the momentum of his small victory, resolves to push further. He envisions a grand plan to reshape the Wudang sect and, eventually, all of the orthodox sects. His mind races with possibilities as he contemplates the power he could wield. Determined to implement his vision, Jinmu knows he needs loyal followers. He looks at Chengwu, seeing potential in him, despite his current naivety. Jinmu decides that by grooming Chengwu and others like him, he can build a foundation of loyalists who will help him realize his ambitious goals. Jinmu asks Chengsang, why not duel with our chubby cheeks? Chengwu, visibly nervous and filled with doubt, exclaims, wait, there's no way, Brother Chengsang is way too powerful for me. His voice quivers with fear as he faces the prospect of battling Chengsang, a seasoned warrior known for his mastery of the evasive cloud sword art. Chengsang stands tall, exuding confidence and skill. His calm demeanor contrasts sharply with Chengwu's panic. Jinmu, ever the strategist, steps in to reassure Chengwu. With a knowing smile and a confident tone, he declares, Chengwu, you'll win. His words are firm and filled with conviction, aimed at boosting Chengwu's morale. Chengsang, with a stern expression, watches the exchange. His face reveals a hint of curiosity mixed with skepticism. He wonders what Jinmu's true intentions are and why he is so confident in Chengwu's abilities. Chengsang's smirk deepens, and he thinks to himself, the lowest of all the Chengs, Chengwu, who just started getting used to the techniques, will win against me, who has already mastered the charged sword. His confidence is palpable, but there's an underlying tension. Chunsang, noticing the confidence in Jinmu's demeanor, prepares himself. His focus sharpens, knowing that he must not underestimate his opponent. The scene is set for a confrontation that will test not only their martial skills, but also their mental fortitude. Chunsang says that he's capable of creating the Qi sword, and it's very difficult to fight him since Chengwu cannot wield a sword. It will practically be a sword versus fist fight. Do you still want me to fight him knowing all these? Do I look like a joke to you? He asks, his voice laced with contempt. To this, Jinmu thinks, Chunsang knows that he's a bit better than others, but he's stuck at the bottom of the rope and not growing any further. He responds aloud, Yes, you look like a joke to me, his voice calm but with an edge that cuts through the air. The chapter ends with our chubby cheeks feeling sad and depressed about the duel that's going to take place, leaving the readers in suspense about the outcome of the impending clash. After harshly reprimanding the juniors, Jinye strode confidently, leading the merchants through the winding paths of the sect grounds. His posture was upright, his face betraying no emotion, but inside he brimmed with pride. Behind him, the merchants followed in their opulent silks, their expressions a mix of curiosity and greed. They had come here for more than just simple trade. They had come with an agenda. Jinye, basking in the thought of being hailed as the strongest student, had no inkling of what lay behind their polished smiles. Meanwhile, a figure in the shadows watched the scene unfold with sharp, calculating eyes. Jinmu, the ever-watchful observer. His instincts had been honed not just in this life, but in the life he had lived before. He had seen all kinds of merchants, all kinds of deals, and all kinds of men hungry for power. But these merchants, they were different. Jinmu's mind raced as he carefully observed their faces. He knew every reputable merchant from his previous life, yet none of these men were familiar. Something about them didn't sit right. His gaze sharpened, suspicion growing deeper by the minute. These merchants were worth keeping an eye on. The merchants immediately launched into their performance, showering the elders with compliments and veiled promises, each word dripping with honeyed flattery. They bowed low, their heads almost touching the ground, but their eyes were alive with hidden schemes. Jinye stood proudly by their side, completely oblivious to the deceit unfolding around him. As the merchants began presenting their gifts to the elders, the mood shifted dramatically. Gleaming swords of exquisite craftsmanship, chests overflowing with gold and silver, and promises of even more riches in the future, all meant to ensure the protection of the sect. The elders, who should have been wise and discerning, were instead swayed by the glitter of wealth. Their eyes gleamed with greed, and they nodded eagerly, pleased with the arrangement. To the merchants, it was clear. Money could buy anything, even the loyalty of supposedly venerable men. Jinhye, still riding high on his perceived success, stepped forward to offer his own contribution. Elders, esteemed merchants, I have prepared a showcase of my underlings' talents and special skills. Their performances will surely impress you, and I hope to earn your approval, he announced proudly, puffing out his chest. He saw this as an opportunity to shine, to further cement his place as the sect's strongest student, and to win favor not only from the elders, but also from the merchants who he believed could elevate his status further. However, as he left the hall, the scene outside was much less grand. The head of the merchants, a burly man with a sharp gleam in his eye, turned to his subordinate, a shrewd, calculating man who seemed less enamored with the pomp of their visit. Why are we wasting so much money on this dying sect? The subordinate asked, his voice a low whisper that barely reached beyond their circle. This place is nothing but a crumbling relic. We could have invested in the Juge sect instead. The merchant head chuckled, a cruel, knowing smile playing on his lips. The Juge sect? He scoffed. They're good, yes, but too sharp for our liking. They know their books, but they're even better with their ledgers. We wouldn't last a day trying to deal with them. They'd sniff out our smuggling operations before we even set foot on their grounds. But little did they know, their words had not gone unheard. From the shadows, Jinmu listened, his eyes narrowing dangerously as the merchant's conversation unfolded. His heart burned with anger, but his mind remained cold and calculating. That goat-mustached idiot, he muttered under his breath, his jaw clenched in frustration. So, you're smugglers. I won't let you get away with this. Jinmu's mind raced with possibilities. He had already decided to take control of the Wudang sect, but this new revelation only solidified his resolve. The merchants thought they could waltz in and take over, but they had no idea who they were dealing with. Jinmu smirked, his gaze hardening with determination. I've already decided to take over this sect, he thought to himself, and I won't let some smugglers ruin my plans. The Wudang sect is mine now. Inside the Yungyun Palace, a spectacle of skill and strategy. The grand hall of the Yungyun Palace was alive with energy. 18 disciples moved in unison, their swords spinning with lightning speed, creating a mesmerizing display of skill and discipline. Each blade cut through the air with precision, forming intricate patterns as the disciples execute their moves in perfect synchronization. The spectacle was nothing short of breathtaking, a testament to their rigorous training and dedication. The head merchant, seated in a place of honor, couldn't help but applaud. His eyes sparkled with genuine admiration as he watched the performance unfold. Truly remarkable, he exclaimed, turning to the elder beside him. You mentioned that these are second-class disciples, yet their skill is nothing short of extraordinary. I am amazed. The elder, a man of great wisdom and experience, nodded humbly, though a satisfied smile tugged at the corners of his lips. We are grateful for your kind words and praise, he responded, the pride in his voice barely concealed. As the disciples continued their performance, Jinye stood by, observing the scene with a mixture of pride and anticipation. To him, this was a moment of validation, a moment where he could finally prove his worth in front of the association leader and the sect's master. But his moment of triumph was marred by the presence of one man, standing quietly in the shadows, Jinmu. Jinhee's gaze narrowed as it locked onto Jinmu, who was watching the performance with a calm, almost indifferent expression. Why is he here? Jinhee thought, a sliver of doubt creeping into his mind. He had orchestrated this event to showcase his talents, to solidify his standing within the sect. But Jinmu's presence unsettled him, and when their eyes met, Jinmu responded with a subtle, taunting smirk. A silent challenge that sent a shiver down Jinhee's spine. The elder, unaware of the silent exchange between the two, addressed Jinye. Please, Jinye, proceed with the demonstration of the nine-headed strike. We are eager to witness your mastery. Jinye snapped back to attention, bowing respectfully. Yes, master, he replied, masking his irritation at Jinmu's presence. But before he could begin, Jinmu called out to him, his tone dripping with sarcasm. I'm looking forward to seeing your performance, Jinye, he said, his eyes glinting with amusement. It was clear that Jinmu was enjoying this, relishing in the discomfort he was causing. Jinye's fists clenched at his sides, his teeth grinding together in frustration. Is he underestimating me? He thought, his anger simmering beneath the surface. In my own territory, the Grace Palace, no less. But he could not afford to lose his composure now, not with so much at stake. Swallowing his pride, Jinhye turned to his disciples, his voice commanding. Form the 9 Palasaurus sword formation, he ordered, his tone sharp and authoritative. The disciples, eager to impress, responded with enthusiasm, their voices ringing out in unison as they moved into position. The air buzzed with anticipation as the disciples began their intricate formation. Moving in a circular pattern, they performed their sword art with precision, their blades flashing as they clashed in perfect harmony. At first glance, it seemed chaotic, as if each disciple was acting independently. But upon closer inspection, it became clear that this was a well-rehearsed strategy, a tactic designed to confuse and overwhelm an enemy from all sides. Each movement was calculated, each step taken with the intent of keeping the opponent off balance, unable to predict the next strike. The true brilliance of the formation lay in its complexity. With 9 people moving in tandem, the formation was a test of both individual skill and group coordination. It was designed to showcase the abilities of the person in command, highlighting their tactical acumen and leadership. And Jinye, standing at the center of it all, reveled in the attention, confident that this performance would secure his place as the sect's rising star. As the demonstration reached its peak, Jinmu watched intently, his expression betraying a hint of admiration. What an interesting formation, he remarked, his tone thoughtful. The elder, noticing Jinmu's interest, turned to him. Are you impressed? He asked, curiosity piqued. Jinmu nodded slightly, but added, Yes, it is impressive. However, they need to focus more. The elder raised an eyebrow, intrigued. What do you mean by that? Jinmu, placing a hand on his chin, began to speak, his words carefully chosen. I'm not entirely sure, he admitted. I haven't studied sword formations in depth, so I could be mistaken. But from what I've observed, after the initial spread, their next attack should decisively strike down the enemy, yet it feels like the formation is slightly off. The elder leaned forward, clearly interested. You think so? He asked, his tone both curious and respectful. Jinmu continued, his eyes focused on the disciples as they moved. It seems to me that they are too concentrated on one side, he explained, pointing with his finger to the left flank. If I were the enemy, I would exploit that weakness. As soon as the left flank attacked, I would retreat, forcing them to overextend. It would be more effective if the swords on that side slowed their pace, drawing the enemy in and then suddenly increased their speed for a surprise attack. It's a bit tricky, but with practice, it could be perfected. I really need to study more to be certain. The elder was taken aback by Jinmu's keen observation. He's just incredible, the elder thought, his mind racing. He figured all that out after seeing the formation just once. Not only can he identify its weaknesses, but he's already thinking of ways to improve it. I knew he was talented, but I didn't realize just how talented he really is. Unable to contain his amazement, the elder turned to Jinmu and asked, Is this really your first time seeing this sword formation? Jinmu, surprised by the direct question, quickly replied, I apologize for speaking out of turn. I didn't mean to overstep. Before the elder could respond, the head merchant, who had been listening intently, interjected. What are you discussing, elder? Is the formation truly that flawed? He asked, his voice laced with concern. The elder smiled and introduced Jinmu to the merchant. This is Jinmu, one of our new, highly talented students. We have high expectations for him. The merchant's eyes narrowed as he assessed Jinmu, his mind racing. Another talented student? He thought, a flicker of doubt crossing his mind. Have I made a mistake by investing in that Jinhye kid? As if sensing the merchant's thoughts, Jinmu smirked, his eyes glinting with a mix of amusement and disdain. Now you're paying attention, he thought, his mind already several steps ahead. I know exactly what you're planning. His gaze shifted to Jinhye, who was basking in the attention of the elders and the merchants. That fool, Jinmu thought, his expression darkening. You actually think you can surpass me and become the master's apprentice? How naive. Jinmu's thoughts turned to his ultimate goal, the mastery of the dual internal chi arts, a rare and powerful technique that would allow him to fuse the shadow dragon techniques from his past life with the Wudang skills of the present. This art, known only to the master's disciples, was the key to his plans. With it, he would wield unparalleled power, uniting the Orthodox Curium alliance under his control. But for his plan to succeed, he needed to eliminate all obstacles, and that included Jinhye. As he watched Jinhye, who was still basking in his temporary glory, Jinmu's eyes narrowed with determination. These small fries think they can stand in my way? He thought, his teeth gritting with barely contained fury. For my plan to succeed, I'll crush every one of their schemes and end them all. The Wudang sect will be mine, and no one, especially not you, Jinhye, will stop me. The next day, Jinmu sat at the dining table, his mind swirling with thoughts as he absent-mindedly poked at his meal. The recent visit from the Cheongyang Merchant Association and Gumjeoksan, along with the ever-ambitious first-class disciple Jinhye, had set his mind on edge. Jinmu knew that to thwart their schemes, he needed to gather every detail about the Merchant Association, but the frustrating reality was that he was stuck on Mount Wudang, unable to leave. His face reflected this helplessness as he struggled internally, unaware that his master, Elder Myungjin, was observing him closely. Noticing the troubled look on Jinmu's face, Myungjin couldn't help but ask, Jinmu, why are you thinking so much? What's on your mind? Startled, Jinmu quickly denied any concerns, though he silently chastised himself for being too absorbed in his thoughts. Their friend Chungwoo, always the observant one, leaned in and whispered to Myungjin that Jinmu had been acting this way ever since the merchants visited 2 days ago. This revelation struck Myungjin, who realized that Jinmu might be yearning for the outside world after seeing people from beyond the mountain. Myungjin felt a pang of guilt, thinking of how Jinmu had spent years confined to the mountain, taking care of him. Trying to lighten the mood, Myungjin asked Jinmu what day it was, to which Jinmu replied that it was the third day of the month tomorrow. Myungjin's face unexpectedly lit up with joy, and he smiled broadly, leaving Jinmu bewildered, wondering why his master was suddenly so cheerful. 2 days later, as the morning sun filtered through the paper screens, Jinmu entered his master's room and was greeted by an unexpected sight. Elder Myungjin was dressed in a dopo, a traditional Korean garment usually worn by the upper class. The sight of the old man, who rarely donned such formal attire, was surprising, to say the least. "Master, why are you wearing the dopo?" Jinmu asked, his surprise evident in his voice. Myungjin turned to his disciple with a serene smile. "I'm going to the Violet Cloud Palace today," he said calmly. Jinmu's eyes widened in shock. "Master, the wind is very cold," he exclaimed, his concern genuine. But inwardly, his thoughts were less about the weather and more about the consequences. "If you get sick again, I'll be stuck here even longer." Myungjin chuckled softly, brushing off Jinmu's worries. "Don't fret, my boy, I've worn warm clothes underneath. Besides, I've been feeling much stronger lately. Let's go." Jinmu couldn't help but wonder why the old man had been in such high spirits these past 2 days. As they made their way to the Violet Cloud Palace, Jinmu's thoughts turned inward. Every 5th day of the month, the Wudang sect holds an elders' conference. He mused. "This is the first time I've attended such an event. What could be so important that Master would insist on going, despite the cold?" As they approached the Grand Palace, they were greeted by Jinheo, another disciple, who welcomed them with a broad smile. "Master, I'm so glad to see you," Jinheo said, his face flushed with happiness. But Jinmu, already on edge, found Jinheo's cheerfulness irritating. Nevertheless, he maintained his respect for his master, bowing as Myungjin responded with a warm smile. "Have you improved your martial arts?" Myungjin inquired, genuinely interested. Jinheo blushed even more, his voice filled with admiration. "Thanks to Master Uncle's disciples, I've come to see the world differently. I've met an amazing junior brother as well. Right, Jinmu?" Jinmu barely acknowledged the compliment, smirking slightly as he looked away. "I wonder what this bastard is so happy about," Jinmu thought disdainfully, recalling how he had almost pummeled Jinheo into the ground not long ago. "He should be grateful I didn't hit him harder." As they walked together, the disciples of the sect humbly bowed to Elder Myungjin, expressing their respect and concern for his health. Jinmu was taken aback by the outpouring of admiration. Why are they all so polite and respectful? He wondered, his surprise giving way to a new understanding of his master's standing within the sect. Their journey took them deeper into the palace, where even the sect master himself came forward to greet Myungjin. His face showed genuine concern as he asked, "Are you sure it's okay to be outside in this weather?" Myungjin nodded reassuringly. "I've recovered well thanks to the care and support of my disciples. I can move freely now," he said, his voice steady and strong. The sect master's expression shifted slightly as he mused aloud. "Did eating meat really help that much? Perhaps I should have lifted the ban on meat much earlier." His tone carried a hint of regret as he considered the dietary restrictions he had imposed. Then, turning to Jinmu, the sect master placed a hand on his shoulder and said, "You did well, Jinmu." The praise took Jinmu by surprise, and he struggled to hide his shock. Jinheo, ever the cheerful optimist, chimed in with a proud smile. "Aren't you proud of your master, Jinmu? You might not know, but Elder Myungjin is the most respected elder in the Wudang sect. Before his illness, he was one of the candidates for clan master. When the evil sect's heavenly master attacked, he stood his ground, defending his disciples to the last. He's the Wudang sect's icon of resistance. That's why everyone respects him." Jinmu listened, his face betraying a mix of emotions. "I see," he murmured, his expression troubled. The realization weighed heavily on him. So he was a big deal after all. In my past life, I fought against him, thinking he was just an ascetic fool who tried to oppose me. I didn't know the full extent of his influence. The Elders' Conference was a gathering of the most influential members of the Wudang sect. The atmosphere was thick with anticipation as they discussed upcoming events, expenses, and training strategies for the disciples. To Jinmu, however, the meeting felt interminable. This is so boring, he thought, his irritation growing as the minutes dragged on. Just when he thought it couldn't get any worse, Elder Myungjin raised his hand. Jinmu's irritation spiked. Why is he raising his hand? Is he trying to prolong this meeting even more? Myungjin's voice cut through the room with calm authority. We must carefully consider our ties with the new merchant association. While the potential benefits are clear, we cannot overlook the risks. We know nothing about the true source of their money. The room fell silent as the elders absorbed his words. Jin Yi, the first-class disciple, looked stunned, his face betraying his surprise. Myungjin continued, I propose that we attach some of our disciples to the merchants as a protective measure. This will allow us to observe their operations and uncover the truth behind their wealth. This is a well-known practice. One of the sect elders nodded thoughtfully. Not a bad idea, but who should we send? With a knowing smile, Myungjin turned to the assembly. I recommend Jinmu. Jinmu's eyes widened in shock. He hadn't expected this at all. Is this why he's been acting so strangely these past 2 days? He wondered. Perhaps keeping him alive has finally paid off. I'm starting to take back all those times I thought he was useless. Jinhyo, ever supportive, quickly added, Since the first-class disciples are busy, sending Jinmu is the best idea. And then, with a playful wink at Jinmu, he continued, Besides, Jinmu's more than capable. Jinmu, now trying to contain a mix of surprise and amusement, thought to himself, You too. If I'd known this was coming, I wouldn't have hit you so hard before. The sect leader, observing the exchange, nodded in agreement. I concur. Jinmu seems to have a keen interest in this matter as well, he said, his tone carrying a weight of finality. Jinhye, who had been quietly seething, felt a cold dread settle in his stomach. This is a disaster, he thought, the realization hitting him hard. His carefully laid plans were beginning to unravel, and Jinmu's unexpected involvement was the last thing he needed. As the elders nodded in agreement, Jinmu felt a warm glow of satisfaction spread through him. He bowed deeply, expressing his gratitude. Thank you for this opportunity, he said, his voice steady with respect. But inside, his thoughts were racing. They say a well-raised master is worth more than 10 clans combined. Today, I'm starting to see the truth in that, Jinmu thought, a grin tugging at the corners of his mouth. This was more than just a mission. It was a chance to gather the information he needed to destroy the Chongyang Merchant Association's schemes from the inside. But as Jinmu's thoughts turned to the future, Jinye, standing nearby, was struggling to maintain his composure. His fists clenched in frustration, his mind a whirl of anger and fear. Such a pain in the ass, he muttered under his breath, glaring at Jinmu, who seemed to be basking in his new role. In the next scene, within the Enlightenment Hall, tension rises as Jinhye stands in the center, his voice raised in desperation, trying to convince the others to prevent Jinmu from going outside. The hall, usually a place of contemplation and discussion, now feels like a battleground of words and emotions. Jinye's frustration is palpable as he addresses senior brother Jingung, his tone sharp and accusing. Are you just going to stand by and watch this happen? He demands. Jinmu is a guy who is being punished for breaking the commandments. We can't send him outside. Jingung, ever the calm and collected leader, responds in a steady voice, You're not wrong, but it was already decided by the elders in the meeting. We can't change it. His words are firm, yet they do little to soothe Jinyi's agitation. The frustration in Jinyi's voice grows as he continues. All of us are from reputable families, destined to be part of the Wudang sect. But Jinmu, he's just a child, a peasant. He's riding on Master Uncle's support, clouding the judgment of the sect elders. His words, dripping with disdain, hang in the air like a challenge. Seeing Jinyi's disrespectful demeanor, senior brother Jingung's patience finally snaps. His voice, usually measured, rises with uncharacteristic sternness as he shouts, Enough, Jinye! Stop talking! The command is sharp, cutting through Jinye's tirade, but Jinye is undeterred. I'm not wrong, he insists, lowering his voice but not his fervor. We all followed our destinies to be part of Wudang, but Jinmu is breaking all the sect's traditions. We must punish him for his actions. As the tension mounts, the door swings open and Jinhyo strides into the room, his presence immediately commanding attention. "Are you getting too excited over something so useless?" Jinhyo remarks, his voice carrying a mix of mockery and authority. "What are traditions if they don't help us become stronger?" Jinhye, taken aback by Jinhyo's sudden appearance, feels a mix of fear and anger. He retorts, though more cautiously now, "Senior brother Jinhyo, it looks like you have a lot to say after losing to Jinmu and landing yourself in the Purification Palace for treatment." Jinhyo steps closer, a smirk playing on his lips. "It seems you're jealous," he says, his tone dripping with sarcasm. "Haven't you seen Master Myungjin? After eating meat, he got stronger and now walks around normally. And the ban on meat has already been lifted. Not to mention, Master Uncle was also in agreement for Jinmu to represent us." Jinye, now speechless, thinks to himself, "This bastard is always poking his nose in." Jinhyo presses on. "You've accomplished a great feat by connecting us with the Merchant Association, but how do you think Senior Brother Jingung sees you now? Connecting and communicating with outside influences is his job. You should have consulted with him before approaching Master Uncle Myungchung. Why did you go straight to the Sect Master about this matter?" As he places a hand on Jinye's shoulder, Jinhyo adds, "Don't take things so seriously. You shouldn't use your position to boost your family's standing." Infuriated, Jinye tries to unsheath his sword, shouting, "How dare you!" As they prepare to clash, Senior Brother Jingung steps in, reminding them both of the respect and positions they hold within the sect. "No one shall speak of the decision made in the elder meeting. Do you understand?" he commands, before leaving the room with the other seniors, ignoring Jinye's objections. Outside, as evening falls and rain begins to pour, Jinmu walks with his master, carrying an umbrella. He smiles warmly at the old man, who notices and asks, "Why are you smiling at me like that?" Jinmu replies, "Because you're awesome," thinking of how proud he is of his master for coming out despite his sickness. Master Myungjin, sensing Jinmu's excitement, says, "Boy, you're eager to explore the world, aren't you? Don't worry about me. Have a good time outside." Jinmu, puzzled, asks, "Good time?" His master reassures him, "Sure, who said you can't have a good time?" Jinmu, with a playful grin, adds, "If I go down, I might eat meat and drink alcohol," to which Myungjin casually responds, "That's okay, when I was younger, I used to drink alcohol too." Jinmu, pushing the joke further, says, "I might even visit prostitutes," which shocks his master, making him pale. Jinmu quickly laughs it off, saying, "I'm just joking," though Myungjin, now uneasy, thinks, "Something tells me he wasn't joking." As they reach the top, Jinmu's followers, Chungwoo and his friend, greet them, carrying luggage and hats to shield themselves from the rain. Jinmu, surprised, asks, "What are you doing with all that?" Chungwoo replies, "I heard you're going out, so we're joining you. We already got the sect master's permission. We're your disciples, and wherever you go, we follow." Jinmu, taken aback, retorts, "Who is my disciple? I'm not crazy. Why would I bring you guys? I'll pick the right people myself for this mission. Now piss off." Ignoring their pleas, Jinmu continues walking with his master, leaving Chungwoo clinging to his feet, begging to be taken along. Watching this unfold, Jinye's anger boils over. Remembering his father's words from childhood, to become a great person and secure the family's fate, he takes a messenger pigeon, writes a message, and attaches it to the bird. As he releases it, he thinks, "There's one rule that must not be broken no matter what: murder of someone within the same sect. You're not the only one who can break the commandments, foolish younger brother." In the next chapter, we are introduced to the strict and time-honored rules of the Wudang sect, a place where tradition holds the utmost importance. It is customary that whenever a sect disciple embarks on a journey, they must first go around to each palace within the sect and personally seek permission from all the elders. This protocol, steeped in the reverence of tradition, is not just a formality, but a test of the disciples' respect and patience. So Jinmu, accompanied by Chungwoo and Chungsang, begins this arduous journey, traveling from one palace to another across the sprawling mountain range. As they set out, Jinmu's frustration grows. The realization dawns on him that each palace is not conveniently located next to the other. Instead, they are separated by vast distances, thousands of meters apart, perched on the jagged ridges of the mountain. The sheer physical demand of this task is daunting, and the idea of traversing the entire ridge fills Jinmu with a sense of irritation and exhaustion. "They're expecting me to reach all of them?" he mutters under his breath, barely containing his frustration. Meanwhile, his two disciples, Chengwu and Chengsang, are bursting with excitement, their youthful energy untainted by the tediousness of the task ahead. "Let's go, master!" they exclaim, their enthusiasm a stark contrast to Jinmu's growing displeasure. As they move from palace to palace, Jinmu can't help but curse the traditions and the elders who enforce them. "Damn you all!" he growls, his voice laced with bitterness. At the culmination hall, they are given new clothes as a gift, clothes that appear pristine and untouched, though Jinmu can tell they've been meticulously sewn to maintain that appearance. Yet as he receives the clothes, Jinheo, a senior disciple who holds Jinmu in high regard, approaches with a broad smile. "Haha, our junior brother is all grown up and going out for the first time. I couldn't be happier," Jinheo says, tapping Jinmu on the shoulder in a gesture of camaraderie. Jinmu, however, remains wary, thinking to himself, "Why is he acting so friendly all of a sudden?" The suspicious shift in Jinhyeo's demeanor only adds to Jinmu's irritation, making him question the sincerity behind these smiles. The next stop is at the Grace Palace, where Jinmu is bombarded with a lengthy list of rules that he is expected to follow during his journey. The elder's voice drones on, listing one regulation after another, but Jinmu barely listens, his mind wandering elsewhere. He nods occasionally, giving the impression that he's paying attention, but in reality, he's mentally preparing himself for the journey ahead, ignoring the majority of the instructions. From the Jade Palace, he receives a new sword with a distinct yin-yang pattern on the hilt, a list of affiliations, golden recovery medicine, and bandages, all items intended to ensure his success and survival. Finally, after what feels like an eternity, Jinmu, along with Chengwu and Chengsang, reaches the Violet Cloud Palace to seek the Sect Master's permission, the last and most important stop on their journey. Exhausted both physically and mentally, Jinmu can barely muster the energy to bow as they pay their respects. The Sect Master, a figure of authority and wisdom, observes them with a discerning eye. "So, Chengwu and Chengsang are going with you?" "Good. They are smart children and will help you," he says. The Sect Master's words are meant to be reassuring, and both disciples blush with pride at the praise. However, Jinmu thinks to himself, "They're not smart, but I have no other choice since nobody else volunteered." The thought is tinged with frustration, but he hides it behind a polite smile. The Sect Master's final words are a solemn reminder of the weight of their mission. "Do not bring a bad name to the Wudang sect at any cost," he instructs, his tone firm and unwavering. Jinmu nods, agreeing with a forced smile, eager to leave the confines of the palace. As soon as the Sect Master grants his permission, Jinmu rushes outside, his face lighting up with a rare moment of joy, eager to escape the stifling atmosphere. But just as he thinks he's free, Jinmu hears the Sect Master call out to him again. Frustrated and on the brink of anger, Jinmu turns around sharply. "What is it now?" he asks, barely masking his irritation. The Sect Master fixes him with a stern gaze, his voice dropping to a serious tone. "Be sure to contact us once a day." The command is clear and non-negotiable, leaving no room for disobedience. Jinmu, suddenly feeling the weight of responsibility, nods quickly. "Yes, Sect Master," he replies, his confidence momentarily shaken as he sweats nervously under the old man's piercing stare. With the formalities finally behind them, the three disciples step outside, the fresh air and open space a welcome change from the rigid halls of the Wudang sect. Jinmu, unable to contain his happiness, breathes in deeply, lifting his hands to the sky. "Fresh air," he exclaims, the simple pleasure of freedom washing over him. Seeing their master so joyful, Chengwu and Chengsang smile as well, their faces flushed with excitement. But Jinmu, ever practical, quickly shifts back to his usual commanding self. He calls both disciples over and hands his luggage to Chengwu and his sword to Chengsang. Chengsang, however, is not pleased. With a concerned expression, he speaks up. "Master, a sword must be carried by its owner. A sword is akin to a swordsman's life." His words are careful, showing both respect and worry. Jinmu, with a smirk that hints at both amusement and challenge, responds, "Do you want me to send you back?" Chengsang immediately stiffens, realizing the gravity of his master's words. Without another word, he takes the sword, placing it behind his back, and says with renewed determination, "I will take care of it like my life depends on it." Satisfied, Jinmu nods, turning his attention to the path ahead. The distance from here to the Merchants Association is around 40,000 meters, Jinmu explains, his tone now all business. It should take less than half a day with a horse ride, so let's pick up the pace. Both disciples agree eagerly, and they set off their first journey together as master and students. However, their journey is soon interrupted by a group of bandits. Their leader, a menacing figure with striking red hair, steps forward and orders, "Give me everything you have." Jinmu, his face impassive, thinks to himself, "In recent years, the world has changed a lot, and tons of these idiots have appeared, but to rob an ascetic right in front of the Wudang sect? Are they out of their minds?" His thoughts are calm, almost detached, as if the situation is more of an annoyance than a threat. Chung Sang, with a strong and resolute voice, steps forward, his face set in determination. "Leave now before you get injured. How dare you stand in front of Mount Wudang and threaten us? Stop this foolishness before it's too late." His words are firm, but the bandit leader merely sneers, drawing both of his knives and taking a combat stance. "You're the fool," the bandit leader retorts, his voice filled with contempt. "A sect that's on its decline. Who would fear you? Hand over everything or we'll take it by force. And if you have any money, you'd better hand that over too." The tension escalates as the bandits' evil intentions become clear, their hostility almost tangible in the air. Jinmu, observing the situation with a blank expression, thinks these bandits are so cliché. He calls out to Chung-sang, his voice steady. "Let's take care of this quickly. We must arrive before sunset." Chung-woo, visibly nervous, stands behind Jinmu, his face slick with sweat. Chung-sang, his resolve unshaken, Wundus responds firmly, "Yes, Master Uncle." He then gives the bandits one final warning. "If you give up now, you won't get hurt." But the bandit leader, undeterred, commands his men to attack. They charge at Chung-sang all at once, their movements wild and uncoordinated. Chung-sang, however, remains calm. He dodges the initial attack by bending backward, then leaps into the air as two more bandits strike. With swift, precise movements, he smacks both of them on their shoulders and backs, Wundus not even bothering to draw his sword from its sheath. He lands gracefully, his feet barely making a sound, while the bandits stumble, clutching at their wounds. The remaining two bandits, enraged, rush at Chung-sang. He meets their attack head-on, using his sword to block their strikes. Jinmu, watching closely, notes that most of the bandits are weak, save for two who show some skill. They must be the leaders. Jinmu smirks, finding their tactics laughable. How absurd, he thinks, making their subordinates charge ahead while they hide behind, looking for an opening. As the fight continues, Jinmu reflects on Chung-sang's abilities. Chung-sang is already capable of infusing energy into his sword. He's a martial artist, just one level below being able to use sword chi. On top of that, he recently received lessons from me and has become much stronger. Even if two of them attack him together, Chung-sang will still be better than them. However, as one of the bandit leaders rushes in to attack, Chung-sang's grip slips and he lets go of his sword. Shocked and sweating, Chung-sang finds himself defenseless, and the bandits seize the opportunity to attack him relentlessly. Jinmu, observing with a critical eye, realizes Chung-sang doesn't have any real experience in Murim. Unlike training, where everything is expected, an actual fight has unpredictable attacks and movements. A Murim practitioner like Chung-sang, who has only ever trained in the mountains, will be surprised when he first encounters such a fight, and confusion often leads to mistakes. As Chung-sang struggles, trying desperately to dodge the bandits' attacks, he receives several injuries. His movements become sluggish, and finally he slips, falling backward. Jinmu continues to analyze the situation, thinking, sometimes a weaker opponent might win against you. As Chung-sang falls, a bandit's sword glints in the light, coming down towards him. Chung-sang is on the verge of being struck by the sword, his mind racing as he realizes it's too late to dodge. Just as the blade is about to connect, two hands appear out of nowhere, stopping the attack. It's Jinmu. Chung-sang, surprised, looks up as Jinmu calmly says, "I let you fight so you could gain some experience." With a show of incredible strength, Jinmu snaps the sword into pieces with his bare hands. Without hesitation, he delivers a powerful knee strike to the bandit's stomach, lifting him off the ground. Jinmu then leaps into the air, bringing both fists down on the bandit's back with immense force, causing the bandit to collapse, unconscious. Jinmu places his foot on the bandit's head and addresses the two remaining leaders with a serious expression. You both seem to have more experience than the others. Why is that? Did someone hire you? He asks, his tone both cunning and commanding. One of the bandit leaders, in a desperate attempt to escape, throws several kunai at Jinmu, but Jinmu swiftly deflects them all. The leader, realizing he's outmatched, turns and tries to flee. However, Jinmu catches up instantly, slamming him to the ground. Who gave you permission to run away? Jinmu demands, his voice calm yet authoritative. Holding the bandit down, Jinmu grabs him by the arm and asks, "Who sent you?" The bandit, trying to maintain his bravado, smirks and replies, "You think I'll tell you that?" Jinmu, unfazed, smiles coldly and says, "Is that so?" He then applies pressure to the bandit's arm, causing him to cry out in pain. "Did you really think I'd just ask a few questions and let you go?" Jinmu's voice remains calm, but his actions are decisive. The bandit, unable to bear the pain, starts to crack. Jinmu continues to apply pressure, ensuring the bandit understands he's not to be taken lightly. Desperate, the bandit accuses Jinmu of being cruel, but Jinmu simply replies, "You attacked first. You're the one who made this necessary." The bandit, now frightened, hesitates but eventually begins to reveal what he knows. Seeing this, the other bandits begin to tremble, realizing they are dealing with someone far more formidable than they had anticipated. As Jinmu finishes, he looks down at his now dirty uniform and thinks, "This was a new uniform, and now it's ruined." The bandits, thoroughly terrified, begin shouting that they'll tell him everything, desperate to avoid further punishment. As they confess, Jinmu and his disciples learn that these bandits are part of a gang operating in the back streets of Danjiangkou under the notorious Eight Dragons gang. Their main job is to collect protection fees, but today they were ordered by their boss, Li Palryong, to capture Jinmu and his companions. The two bandits who had been beaten earlier are known as the Twin Savages, infamous in the underworld of Danjiangkou. They had assumed that kidnapping these three disciples would be an easy task, but they were sorely mistaken. Jinmu considers the situation, realizing that someone must have hired these bandits, but he wonders why anyone would target their sect, even in its weakened state. Who would dare to order something like this? Jinmu muses, trying to piece together the mystery. He then asks the bandits directly, "Who is behind this?" But the bandits exchange clueless looks, clearly unaware of who gave the order. Jinmu then turns to the leader and asks, "How much is your boss's bounty worth?" The bandit hesitates before responding, "About 10 silver yangs." Jinmu, unimpressed, mutters, "That's too cheap." He then asks the bandits if they have any money on them. Without hesitation, they hand over their pouches, hoping to appease him. Jinmu takes the money and orders them to leave. Chengwu and Chengsang, shocked and angry, exclaim, "Master, are you really taking their money?" Jinmu, ignoring their protests, warns the bandits not to tell Li Palryong what happened and informs them of the consequences if they do, bending a coin with his fingers as a show of strength. The bandits, thoroughly intimidated, promise not to say anything and vow to reform their ways. They run away, terrified, while Chengwu and Chengsang remain stunned. Even though the bandits were in the wrong, the disciples are shocked by how decisively Jinmu dealt with them and by the fact that he took their money afterward. With a calm demeanor, Jinmu instructs both disciples to bring the twin savages down the mountain as they continue their descent, a smile playing on his lips. Next chapter, at night, our heroes finally reach the entrance of Danjiangkou's Silverfang County, where the imposing Silverfang County Magistrates Court stands. We see the county employees busily carrying the infamous twin savages on stretchers, their faces marked with defeat and fear. As they approach, Jinmu turns to his two companions, Chengsang and Chengwu, and instructs them with authority in his voice, "I'll go inside to speak with the magistrate. You two, wait here." Both disciples, still reeling from the long journey, nod in agreement, though weariness is evident on their faces. As soon as Jinmu steps away, the toll of the journey hits them hard. Both disciples collapse onto the ground, completely exhausted, having not rested once during their travels. Chengwu, breathing heavily, looks over at Chengsang and asks, "Is Jinmu's behavior normal? I knew he was strict, but the way he dealt with those bandits, it was almost terrifying, his voice tinged with concern and confusion. Chung-sang, however, looks up with admiration shining in his eyes. I respect what he did, he says firmly. Those people we encountered were not just any criminals. They were bandits who have caused unimaginable suffering in countless lives. Do you really think they would hesitate to commit such atrocities again if given the chance? Chungwoo, taken aback by Chung-sang's intensity, seems to grasp something he hadn't considered before. Chung-sang continues. Did you see the terror in their eyes as they fled? That wasn't just fear. It was the realization that they had met someone who wouldn't let them off easily. With a distant look in his eyes, Chung-sang recalls a painful memory from his past. I've lost my whole family to robbers, he confesses, his voice heavy with the weight of his words. We are then drawn into a flashback of his childhood, where a group of ruthless robbers mercilessly attacks his family, leaving young Chung-sang alone in a world suddenly devoid of love and safety. He continues, those bandits slaughtered innocent villagers and my family without a second thought. If it weren't for Elder Myungjin, I wouldn't be here today. But do you know what happened after that? Those same bandits were released, bailed out through bribery, and they continue their reign of terror to this day. With a grim determination etched on his face, Chung-sang declares, I can never forgive them. My desire for justice drives me. It's the reason I took up the sword. The elders always told me to find peace within and forgive those who wronged me. But Uncle Jinmu, he was different. Thanks to him, I finally understand what true guidance means. He didn't just punish those criminals. He made sure they would never forget their fear. He's the kind of person who walks through hell to bring light to others. Today, I've made a decision. I will follow in Jinmu's footsteps, no matter how difficult the path, and become his disciple, he says, tears of conviction and admiration streaming down his face as he places a hand over his heart. Chungwoo, deeply moved, feels a swell of emotion rising within him, and he too begins to cry, inspired by Chung-sang's resolve and Jinmu's unwavering sense of justice. To think Master had such deep intentions behind his actions. I had no idea, Chungwoo whispers, his voice filled with newfound respect and awe. Meanwhile, inside the magistrate's office, the atmosphere is tense. Jinmu, with a grip as firm as his resolve, holds the magistrate by the collar, demanding, at least one more nyang? I struggled so much to capture them. Didn't you see how their clothes were all torn up? Why only 20 nyangs? Just give me one more, he insists, a mischievous, greedy look on his face. The officer replies, you're really a persistent ascetic. I already told you it's a fixed price, and their faces are so damaged that we can barely identify them. After a lot of back and forth, the officer reluctantly gives Jinmu one more coin, bringing a satisfied smile to Jinmu's face. Jinmu then asks, do you know Li Palryong? To which the officer responds, of course, from the Dragon's Gang. With a cunning grin, Jinmu asks, how much is he worth? What's his bounty? The officer, surprised and confused, snaps out of it and says, 20 coins. Jinmu is pleased to hear this amount and thinks to himself, I'm proud of him, but I'm also practical, and I'll claim the reward by turning him in to the authorities. The officer continues, it's not easy to capture him. We've tried several times. He's a skilled martial artist and as elusive as a loach, always finding a way to hide. Jinmu is taken aback to learn that Li Palryong is a martial artist. Danjiangko is in the Jaegol family's territory. Unless someone is actively looking for trouble, how could they expand their territory into Jaegol family's domain, he thinks. He continues his thoughts. It's obvious where they would hide, the gambling night market and the red light district. His face lights up at the thought of earning more money and gathering more information on who hired the bandits. As soon as he exits the office, both Chung-sang and Chungwoo bow and shout, Master, we respect you, and we will follow you forever. Jinmu, puzzled, simply replies, let's have dinner. Hearing the word dinner, Chungwoo's eyes light up, and he starts drooling in anticipation. Jinmu adds, it's a special day. We'll have unlimited meat and alcohol. Jinmu orders meat, instructing the servers to bring it non-stop until they ask them to stop. It's all you can eat today, he declares, and all three of them eagerly await the food. Chungwoo and Chung-sang are mesmerized by the taste of the food. Jinmu thinks, this is meat with spices. They must be thrilled to try this for the first time. However, other customers start gossiping about the Wudang sect disciples' behavior and their choice of food and alcohol, which frustrates Jinmu. He chooses to ignore them. Meanwhile, Li Palryong's underlings sit and observe Jinmu's group, thinking to themselves, it looks like those bandits failed. One of them orders the other to inform Li Palryong, and they both leave. As they depart, new figures wearing distinctive uniforms appear. One asks, should we follow them? The leader responds, we're just here to inspect Silverfang County, which is within our jurisdiction. Don't pursue them. This character is Jegal Gain, the second son of the Jegal family in Danjiangkou. He asks his bodyguard, are those the disciples of the Wudang sect? They were once pushed out from the center of the 8 sects and have kept themselves isolated from the world. Jegal-gun then observes, do they eat meat and drink alcohol? It's surprising, he says, watching Jinmu's group as they enjoy their meal. Jegal-gun, the second son of the Jegal family and a direct descendant of the powerful Danjiangkou province, holds an influence that words can barely capture. His bodyguard, observing the young disciples, remarks that they likely belong to the second class, which he believes is why their sect is in decline. However, Jegal-gun counters with a knowing smile, questioning the certainty of their downfall. Even though they hide in the mountains, the Wudang sect is still like a tiger. Among them, there is always one who, starving, emerges for one reason only, for food, he says, his eyes narrowing in thought. He then calls for Gahu, instructing him to test the disciples' abilities without harming them. Find out if they are dogs or tigers, he orders. If they're second class, their skill level should be equivalent to first-rate martial artists at best. Since you've reached the level of mystic chi, you can apply just enough pressure to test them without going overboard. Gahu, confident in his abilities, agrees. Sure, master, I'll pressure them just enough to humble them a bit, he replies with a sly grin. Approaching Jinmu, Gahu introduces himself, his tone friendly, but with an underlying edge. I've always admired the Wudang sect. It must be fate that we meet here. How about I buy you guys a drink? He suggests, the grin on his face not quite reaching his eyes. Jinmu, seeing through Gahu's pretense, responds with a smirk. You're good at talking nonsense, he retorts, turning toward Gahu with a look of disdain. It's obvious what you want. You guys are trying too hard, he adds, his tone laced with sarcasm. Gahu, taken aback by Jinmu's audacity, wonders to himself, what kind of ascetic is this? He talks and acts worse than a street thug, and his clothes, they reek of blood. It's like he's a thug in stolen ascetic robes. Jinmu continues, his voice rising as he addresses the room. There are too many people in this inn who are getting on my nerves today, insulting me and my sect just because of what we eat and drink, he declares, his words sending a chill through those who had been gossiping earlier. Fear grips them, and they begin to quietly leave the room, unable to meet Jinmu's gaze. Turning back to Gahu, Jinmu challenges him directly. If you want to test our strength, come and see for yourself. But how dare you send one of your dogs to do it? The insult cuts deep, and Gahu, now visibly frustrated, snaps, how dare you call me a dog? Jinmu, however, dismisses him with a wave. Ah, forget it, he says nonchalantly, before calling out to Chengsang. This person is curious about your skills. Don't disappoint me, and if you fight like a fool again, you'll regret it, he warns. Chengsang, with a determined nod, steps forward to face Gahu. As the two square off, Gahu glances back at his master, his thoughts racing. Damn it, this isn't how I wanted things to go, he thinks, realizing he's lost control of the situation. Jegal-gun, observing the unfolding events with a mix of irritation and interest, thinks, you fool, you've lost the upper hand, but at least now I can gauge his skills directly. On top of eating meat and drinking alcohol, he acts like a thug. What a unique ascetic. A grin spreads across his face as he muses. It looks like he's at least a wolf cub. Gahu, readying himself for the fight, assumes a stance without drawing his blade. I hope your skills are as sharp as your tongue, he says. Jinmu, noticing this, calls out, Hey, what are you doing? Our Chengsang will be using a sword. Go's irritation grows as he realizes the fight won't be on equal terms. Taking on someone wielding a sword while he fights barehanded seems unfair, but his pride won't let him back down. Grinding his teeth, Gahu reflects on the situation. He said, Chengsang, so it's confirmed. He's a second-class disciple, but I'm one of the top martial masters in the Jegal family. There's no way I'm unsheathing my sword for a mere second-class disciple, he thinks, before shouting, bare fist arts will do. Jinmu, with a confident smile, says, you'll regret that. And with a commanding voice, he orders Cheongsang to go all out. Cheongsang begins his attack with a swift strike aimed directly at Gahu's face, his sword slicing through the air with precision. Gahu is taken by surprise and barely manages to dodge the blow. Jinmu watches with a smirk, mentally narrating, the flowing cloud sword, striking with such precision, is more like lightning than a flowing cloud. As the battle intensifies, Cheongsang unleashes a series of powerful swings, each one pushing Gahu to his limits. Gahu, realizing the seriousness of the fight, switches to offense, landing a kick on Cheongsang's back and following it up with a punch to the stomach. He's an amateur with so many weak points, Gahu thinks, delivering an elbow to Cheongsang's face and targeting his lower body. It seems like Cheongsang is on the losing side, but Jinmu remains unfazed. He thinks to himself, the flowing cloud sword's weakness is in its defense, particularly in the first hand and lower body. But I've already taught Cheongsang about these weaknesses, and he overcame them long ago. With an approving, almost sinister expression, Jinmu concludes, he's deliberately showing his weaknesses. Cheongsang, you clever rascal, when did you become so cunning? Who, sensing Cheongsang's apparent weaknesses, decides to exploit them fully. With a determined leap from the table, he launches a wide-range attack. Cheongsang blocks the blow with his sword, but Gahu quickly follows up with a powerful kick to Cheongsang's stomach. Encouraged by the success of his attacks, Gahu throws another punch, confidently declaring that this will be the end. However, Cheongsang unexpectedly dodges by swooping down, leaving Gahu momentarily stunned. Realizing too late that he has exposed his own vulnerability, Gahu understands that he has fallen into a trap. Seizing the opportunity, Cheongsang counters by driving his weapon toward Gahu's throat, the blade unsheathed. Gahu crashes into a table, fear and shock written across his face as Cheongsang raises his weapon to strike again. The sound of Cheongsang's relentless blows echoes through the room, bringing a satisfied smile to Jinmu's face. Well done, Jinmu thinks to himself, pleased with Cheongsang's performance. If you're going to fight, do it properly. It was worth teaching this guy. Watching his subordinate struggle, Jegal Gan's anger flares. How can you lose to a second-year disciple like that? It's disgraceful. You should be ashamed, he shouts, his frustration evident. Gahu, stung by his master's harsh words, feels a surge of determination. Without hesitation, he draws his blade, a dark purple aura emanating from it as he swings with newfound intensity. The force of the blow is so strong that it knocks the sheath from Cheongsang's sword. The atmosphere around Gahu shifts. He's no longer holding back as he takes up a battle stance, shouting, "You're going to regret this." Jinmu, watching intently, recognizes the advanced technique Gahu is using. That's a special move of a first-rate martial artist, sword chi, he mutters, frustration creeping into his voice. He was about to win, but he should have taken the opportunity when he had the upper hand, Jinmu thinks, regretting that Cheongsang didn't capitalize on his earlier advantage. Just as Jinmu decides to step in, he halts, surprised to see Cheongsang channeling his chi into the sword, creating a charged blade with lightning crackling around it. Intrigued, Jinmu decides to observe the situation a bit longer. Chungwoo, filled with worry, exclaims, "Master Uncle, it's sword chi, we need to help him." But Jinmu sharply retorts, "Quiet, just watch." Gahu, seeing the charged sword, is genuinely impressed. For a 20-year-old to manage a charged sword, that's pretty impressive, he thinks. But he knows the difference between sword chi and a charged sword is vast, both in the concentration of chi and the power they wield. More importantly, sword chi allows an attack from a distance, greatly expanding the range of potential strikes. "Prepare yourself," Gahu shouts as he swings his sword chi around the room. The purple aura lashes out like a whip, but Cheongsang deftly dodges, jumping onto a table to avoid the attack. Gahu strikes again, but Cheongsang leaps away just in time, causing Gahu's blow to shatter the table instead. Cheongsang, refusing to back down, runs and leaps off a pillar, launching himself back towards Gahu. The sudden close-in shocks Gahu, who swings his sword again in frustration. Cheongsang barely manages to block the attack with his own sword, but the force of it knocks him to the ground. Undeterred, He quickly regains his footing, taking a knee to steady himself. Jinmu watches with growing admiration, thinking, well done, Chung-sang. You're giving it your all to close the gap and find an opening. You already understand the difference in skill between you and Gahu, but your spirit hasn't wavered. A proud grin spreads across Jinmu's face. Even though you're not my direct disciple, I should train you to avoid situations like this, he muses before suddenly disappearing from his spot, moving with incredible speed. Jinmu interrupts the fight, casually addressing Gahu with a taunt. Hey, Mustachio, you're really going all out by drawing your sword and everything? Since you're pretty good, I'll join in. Don't be rough on my kind boy over there. Gahu, irritated by Jinmu's intrusion, snaps, You don't interrupt our match! Chung-sang, determined, shouts, Master Uncle, I can still fight! The room falls silent as those watching realize the significance of Chung-sang's words. They whisper among themselves, he's calling him Master Uncle? Does that mean he's a Jin? The realization dawns on them. Jins are the first-class disciples of the Wudang sect, martial artists who train directly under the sect elders. Typically in their mid-30s, they are crucial members of the sect. Jegul-gyeon, shocked, murmurs, That young child is a Jin? I can't believe it. As Chung-sang insists he can continue the fight, Jinmu gently but firmly stops him. Chung-sang, he says, and the disappointment is evident in Chung-sang's expression as he thinks, I've disappointed my master again. But Jinmu continues, You did very well. From now on, I'll teach you how to handle opponents like this. Watch and learn. If you enjoyed my narration and found that the images align well with the story, I would greatly appreciate it if you could subscribe. Your support means a lot. Thank you.